Welcome to Learn with Hack the Box, a unique YouTube series focused on fast-tracking your career path in either offensive or defensive cybersecurity. Whether you're an aspiring SOC analyst or pen tester, stay tuned for more of this tutorial-style content from professionals leading in the space, with tips and resources to help guide you in your journey. So by the end of this episode, we're going to set up an isolated lab that we can perform malware and digital forensics, as well as a security incident and event management platform. So whether you're new to the field or a seasoned vet, stay tuned as we go through this whole thing step by step and get you moving and grooving on your way. To kick things off, we're going to be designing our lab, giving us a nice little outline so we know what we're actually working with here. Now, there are many different ways you can set up a lab. There's so many different ways to do this. There's not a right or wrong way. Everyone's thing is set up just a smidge different. We do want to have a blue team emphasis on this, so we're going to focus on things like detection engineering, malware, and forensics. We're going to be focusing on just like the overall spread to kind of give us a realistic setup for a enterprise environment. Now, tonight, I'm going to show you how to do it with Broadcom's VMware Workstation Pro. This used to be a paid product, but now it is a free offering for personal home use. So this is gonna be really nice here so we can actually do some network segmentation, good VM management, what have you. I think it's one of the more polished solutions out there. So we're gonna start here with creating our hypervisor. We're then gonna dig into a Ubuntu image. This is a Linux image that's being kind of used in multiple different products in our lab tonight. So we're going to take this and we're going to use the networking to kind of keep everything isolated off of our home network. We don't want it talking to our television or our Bluetooth speaker downstairs. So we're going to take this and then we're going to install on top of the Ubuntu image a instance of Splunk. Now this is a security incident information event management tool. This is going to take all of your logs, your events, what have you, and just aggregate it into one spot. Make it very easy to parse through and just kind of look at your whole setup as a whole. Very comprehensive, very smooth and clean. We're also going to use one of these Ubuntu images and set up a reverse engineering malware analysis image using something like Remnux. And then finally, we're actually going to pivot and use an image of Windows 11, and we're going to create a forensics reverse engineering tool set that's a little bit different than the other offerings on our Linux distributions. Now, it's worth mentioning Hack the Box is running an end of year sale on all of their VIP, VIP Plus, and Pro Lab memberships on the Hack the Box Lab platform. This is a 20% discount on the month of December, so check the links down below in the description to get yours today. So let's go ahead and rip into our internet browser, and we're going to be navigating to the VM Workstation blog. So this is just saying, hey, visit our website. What you once paid for is now a free solution for personal use. So we're going to scroll down here to the bottom, and it should say Workstation Pro for your Windows users or VMware Fusion for your Mac users. So I'm using Windows as my main operating system. We dig into that, and then you'll be prompted to create an account and set up all those things and then download that solution. So I've already done that. This is where you would go to do that. Now, while we are here, we will need to have our hypervisor, yes, but we're gonna be building off of Ubuntu Linux for our first two setups. So we're gonna then pivot to the Ubuntu desktop setup here. And it's pretty point and click. So you go through here, we're gonna click our desktop solution for whatever kind of architecture we're gonna be running off of. We're gonna use our latest stable build here, and then it's gonna prompt us for this. We should get a notification in our download that's gonna start downloading. There it is. And then from there, we should have a stable build. So I'm gonna let that run real quick and I'll be right back. So once we've gone through, we've downloaded the workstation wizard. We now have our .iso for Ubuntu. We can then start creating our actual virtual machine. Now all this is gonna be hosted on our laptop, our desktop, whatever we have. And then we're going to be hosting these guest operating systems off the resources from that machine. So it's gonna follow through. We're gonna hit yes. We're going to dig into the directory where we had our .iso. So this has been, it's noticed that this is a easy install for our setup here. We're going to we'll say Ubuntu _64 bit and then we'll just do another underscore and say this is our clean image. So I'm doing this just because we're going to be building a few different clones of this, and so it'd be nice to have like a base clean image. Once we've done our updates and everything to it, we can then just clone off of that. So we're now presented with our clean image of Ubuntu. We're going to do a little bit of house cleaning. So we're going to go through here, open up terminal. We're going to launch a quick update, and then where's my fingers at here? A sudo apt upgrade. What this does, it just kind of goes through and it verifies that all of our, make sure my fingers are here. So we're basically going through, we're verifying all of our packages, all of our apps, everything is just nice and up to date before we create our base image here. So we're going to just rock and roll for a second. So now that our machine is turned off here, we're going to go into our guest operating systems, and then we're going to go down to the manage tab, and we're going to hit clone. So we have right here, basically this is like the cleanest version that's been up to date. All the packages, everything is just at its finest. There's no added stuff to it. It's just literally out of the box, plus it's been updated. So we're going to run through this wizard, make sure everything is good, the current state of this. We're going to create a full clone independent from the other ones. We don't want to link them together. We don't have it independent of itself. It's going to be a little bit more in the sense of gigabytes, but that's completely fine. We're going to be doing this one for our SIEM build, or SIEM, and then we're going to be doing the other one for our malware analysis. So we want them to be independent from each other. We don't want to build off of another. So with this one, let's just name it what we're going to use it for. So we'll say, let's just call this Remnux. So this is Remnux 64, and technically at the moment it still is Ubuntu, but we're going to copy over all of our tools, and once it does that, it'll no longer look like Ubuntu. You'll see what I'm talking about. So we're gonna run this through and we'll be right back. So this is actually like an identical copy of what we already done, and the idea here is we're just gonna basically keep cloning off of the original image if we wanted to build out different versions of this. So anyway, so we're gonna go back into our Ubuntu item here on the left. We've then navigated to the Splunk website. We're then gonna go to the top right here where it says free Splunk. Now this is going to give us all of our different options, whether we're doing it on a cloud environment, but we're actually looking for the scroll on to the bottom here. It says free trials and downloads. So once we've clicked into that, we're then looking for our Splunk Enterprise. And then we also have the option for a universal forwarder. So tonight we're going to work off of a sample package off of the boss of the SOC, the bots data set. But if you wanted to do forwarding from another virtual machine or any sort of other appliances in your network, you would then go to this universal forwarder option here, download it on the endpoint or whatever you're trying to monitor, and then it would then send it back to this instance tonight. So we're going to go into the get my free trial. And then if you don't already have a Splunk account, you will need to build one out here. And then once you've done that, you'll be then presented with a download link. So let me input my information really quick. I'll be right back. So once we have our account information put all in there, we're gonna be presented with a couple different options. Now, since I'm doing this off of an Ubuntu build, we're gonna dig into the Linux tab here, and then we're gonna go down to the Debian build here. And then I'm gonna do it off of the wget. So you go in here, you click on this, it'll actually copy the entire command into your clipboard. And what you can do is you can just paste it into your terminal. So let's open up our terminal, and then let's just paste that in there. Okay, of course, and let's go there. Let's delete all this gunk in the front. Let's throw a sudo in there. Let's prompt me for my password. Okay, so it's gonna start rocking and rolling. Now this does take a lot of time, so I'm gonna do some, YouTube editing magic to kind of make this go by a little bit quicker. Just know it is gonna prompt you for things. There will be times we have to accept licenses, but the whole process is gonna take quite some time. So we'll do this and we'll cut back. Everything is done downloading from the Splunk site now. So basically, we've pulled everything down with our wget command. Now what we need to do is we need to actually see it in our path here. The red Debian build is actually a compressed package. So what we need to do is we need to move it to its appropriate location before we uncompress it. Let's go ahead and let's open up just so we can see it. We're gonna go into our files and we're just gonna do whack opt, and then there is our package. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and install this here. So we're just gonna double click into this. It's gonna give us a prompt, and then we're just gonna hit install. And it's now presenting us with our password. So we are creating a web server that's being hosted on this instance here, and then we'll actually access it from our web browser. So now that we're into our Splunk browser here, let's throw in our username and password. But with luck, we are in there. That's what I'm talking about. Let's save that in there. It's fine. But yeah, this is now our admin portal to our Splunk instance. Now this is going to build out the first time things are a little bit, iffy. It's, building up. It's going to take a second, right? but this is like enterprise level Splunk. This is Splunk Enterprise, and there's a lot of things you can do with this. You can create different apps to put inside of here. A lot of the stuff on the back end runs Python, so if it didn't have an app available, you could actually create something. But this is the actual, like the real version of Splunk. What if you wanted to actually practice some of the SPL, the Splunk parsing language, the searching language that's in here? It's a little bit proprietary. It's very similar to Custo. If you want to do some actual practicing on this, we can find some data sets and actually import it into our Splunk instance, so then we can do our testing here. We can do our content creation and engineering, and then if we wanted to, we can then pipe it into our production environment. And this is the official data set from Splunk. Now, there is a little caveat here that I wanted to mention. So it does say in the actual the GitHub instructions that you're gonna need all these applications, these data source types, to look at this data. That's actually not the case. This is very old. It's very much deprecated, but the use case is still there. There's so many different source types in here that you could actually use to make your content off of, but it's saying there's all these different applications listed here that we would need to use, and it's just not the case. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top here, and we are going to get our copy of this. So we're just going to download it from here. We'll keep it simple. There's a few moving pieces here. So we actually just downloaded the TGZ, and that is fine and dandy, but that is the wrong location. So let's just go up and let's go to our Splunk Etsy, and I think it's apps. Yeah, okay, apps. Cool. So we have this right here, and we can actually list out our downloads, and we're gonna see our TGZ file. So we need to uncompress that. So what is that? That is tar, and that's XVZF. That's going to be our verbose extract on that. And then we're going to point it at that. So that's our bots file there. So we're going to go ahead and uncompress that. It's going to rock and roll. And it's basically just taking our compressed stuff, opening it up, but we still need to move it. So once that's done there, we can now list it out, and we should have our data set as well as our compressed data set, which we only want the one. So then we're going to go into, where are we at here? Where's my mouse? Okay, there it is. Okay, cool. So we are going to move, and then we're going to click on our bots and our local, or our current working directory, present working directory, and then we're going to point that to this location over here. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this location, and then going to paste, and then let's go ahead and just paste that location there. And then with that, we should be, because I forgot to do that. Okay, so we're just gonna do sudo bang bang, and then it's now moved it over there. So you can see right here. Now all we have to do at this point, we need to go back into our Splunk instance. Over here, we go into our, I believe it was server controls. Controls or settings. Okay, cool. So server controls, and then we just hit restart. Back in Splunk, let's go ahead and manage our apps. That's right here is our application we set to enable on this, and so we should be able to dig right into our search and report. Now the other thing that kind of to note for this is that this is older. This is an older data set, so if you were to go off of like the past 24 hours, that would not work. So we would want to open back up here. I believe it gives us a command that we want to rock and roll with. Here it is, perfect. So it's right here. It says our index for the bots v3 data, and then the earliest is 0. So it basically just brings it from the first instance of. So we're going to change our search window to all time, which in prod we're not going to be doing that. This is just for testing things out. And then I'm going to fire this off. Here we go. And there's going to be a ton of information that comes at us, and so I'm gonna go ahead and hit stop, just that way our session doesn't crash there. But more or less, we're presented with a lot of information right off the rip, something that we didn't actually create or populate ourselves. It's already been done, and it's like the ideal scenario. So we have, like, you know, key values that are actually populated. It's really helpful when it comes to developing your detections, because sometimes in the real world, when you're going through these things, you may find that things aren't being properly ingested or not being pulled from proper sources. But this is just monumentally, it's so helpful, because then we're actually able to go through, we can then start, you know, going off of what data sources we have, what source types we have, what sources we have, and then going off of that and creating our data models based off of the data that we're given. So this is, I wish someone would have told me about this before, doing it for so long and then trying to figure out the hard way. This is a really nice lab to set up so you can actually practice and get a good idea of what's going on in your environment. So let's go ahead and launch up that clone that we made prior of our Ubuntu image. We named it Remnux. Let's go ahead and just launch that up. So what we're basically doing is we're going to the actual Remnux site and pulling it down just like last time. So we're just gonna do another one of those wget. Cool, so this is just pulling from the org site now. This is the actual command line installer. And it's worth noting that we could do all of this through an appliance. So we can actually go through, find the VMware or VirtualBox appliance, pull it down, bring it in. So now what we're gonna do here is we're gonna do this, and we need to actually move our installer and give it executable capability. So I'm gonna try to fast forward through this part, but basically we're gonna move it, we're gonna then change it, and then we're going to prepare it for execution. And so then now it's been moved over there, and then we can actually do let's open up another window here. List that out, and then we see we have our Remnux in there. And we can actually do like an ls-l. We can see that it has all of its executables in there. So we're pretty much ready to go. We do need to install some dependencies because this is a very clean version of Ubuntu. I don't actually think it has curl. So we're gonna wanna go through here. Where's my mouse? We're gonna also wanna install that as well. So we need to do an apt-get install on curl. So it's going through and pulling that down as well. So we're now pulling all of our dependencies. And again, this is just because it's a fresh image of Ubuntu. If you had another distro like Kali or anything like that, it's probably most likely included already. So now we're actually going to want to run the thing here. Let's do Remnux. Install. Let's do a mode of add-on. So this is because this is an addition to. So if everything is where it's supposed to be, we're rocking and rolling. So after a little bit of research, I actually found that the image that we were using for Ubuntu is too new for this software distribution. It's about 4 stable builds ahead, and they're saying that based off of a lot of the dependencies and things that are in there, it's just not worth going through and trying to update all those individual dependencies and seeing what things break along the way. So what we can do, it'll actually be pretty easy to do, is we're going to dig into the actual Remnux documentation site, remnux.org, and we're actually going to navigate and download a virtual appliance file. Now what this is essentially someone took the virtual machine itself, they basically created almost like an image file, but it's specifically designed for virtual machine hypervisors. So in this instance, we're going to be navigating around, and we're going to use, since we're using VMware, we're going to be using the general OVA as opposed to like the VirtualBox one. The VirtualBox was the primary free solution, but with Broadcom coming out and releasing theirs for free, we're using a general one. So in this case, we're going to navigate to one of our sources here, and once we click that, we'll then download our piece. And then because we are downloading off of off of a site, we are then going to want to do a checksum. So we do have our item down here at the bottom for our general OVA file. And so all we're going to do there is we're just going to do a quick get file hash on this, and it's just going to let it crunch. We're doing our file hash on the algorithm of SHA-256, and then we should be seeing on the back end there, the last 5 numbers are going to be 19645, and I'm getting that from right over here in this general area. So with a little bit of editing magic, we have right there are at the back end here 19645. So this is indeed the file that we downloaded. It wasn't damaged in transit. It is the file that it's saying it's supposed to be. It wasn't tampered with. Okay, so we can then move this aside here, and we can actually dig back into our VM, our hypervisor here. So we're gonna go ahead and shut this one down, this Remnux box, and it's major sad, but it is what it is. So we're gonna then open our virtual machine, and then we're gonna navigate to our appliance here. So we're gonna dig into this, and it's gonna follow the same concept, the same wizards. Here we have it. Here's our Remnux appliance. Let's see if we can make this a little bit bigger. So this is going here, and then let's do a, what is it? It's kind of the same old same. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna do our upgrade on this, our updates, and it's gonna make sure everything is running the way it should. And then once this is finished here, we're then going to create something called a snapshot. Now, a snapshot is just a moment in time where the configuration, the state of the virtual machine is just captured as is. So when we have this all set up, kind of similar to before, when we were making our clone of our virtual machine, we're going to be making a snapshot of this. When we go to detonate malware or anything in our environment here, we can revert back to that clean state once this is done upgrading. Lastly, when we have everything set up, if everything's been upgraded, we're going to go to the very top of our hypervisor here. So we're going to say, take a snapshot of this machine, and we're going to say something like post upgrade initial setup. Now, again, this is kind of an art in itself, because when you get into these snapshots and these pre and post detonations, it actually starts forking into almost like a tree, like a hierarchy tree of different states in your virtual machine. So if you actually look in the bottom left down here, it's kind of hard to see, but it's the state of it, and it takes a good chunk of time. But once you have them, you can actually revert back, and you can go back and forth in these different states. So it's extremely important, especially with the malware and the forensics ones, if you do these, because if you run it, you detonate it, you basically have to wipe your entire virtual machine, start over, if you don't use those snapshots. So again, something to do. It's really worth getting in the habit of doing, but the snapshots will save you a lot of time and a lot of pain there. Now, for our last build tonight, we're going to be going through and creating our Flare VM network forensics box. Now, this one's a little bit interesting because we more or less need to do some things that Microsoft maybe doesn't understand what's going on here. Some of the tools that are going to be in our suite here will flag some alerts. We're going to have to disable some things with Microsoft Windows Defender and some other different things. So you'll kind of see as we walk through it, but this one's a little bit more tricky compared to the other ones. Hang tight. I'll try to walk you through this, but we're going to be going through the basic install of Windows. I'm going to try to do some editing to kind of speed this up a little bit. Just the majority of it's going to be standard until we get to the part where we have to start bypassing some things. So I'll fast forward there. So the one thing that kind of stands out when we're doing our Windows initial setup is this association, this attribution to our Microsoft account. So we don't want to have any sort of association to this. We're going to be analyzing malware and forensics. We don't want to have anything, piping out to anybody, anything eluding that's being looked at. So we're actually going to try to bypass that and not include any sort of accounts. So we're going to go in here, we're going to verify that our internet connection is turned off on the actual VM itself, and then we're going to open up a command shell while running this installation, and then bypass that requirement. So it now says here that we do not have our internet connection. Retry it. It's going to prompt us to go back, and then once that's up and running, we should be given a prompt here, but it's grayed out. It really says, hey, we really want to connect and do something here. So where are we at here? So once we have it kind of, we really can't go anywhere else with this. We're going to do, what is it? Shift and F10. So F10. And once that pops, we should be given our shell. Awesome, cool, rock and roll. And then with our command shell here, we're then going to dig into our admin shell. We're going to do, what is it? out of box experience slash bypass. Is it network requirement option? So fire that. So it's going to do, it's basically going to re-roll everything. So I'm going to cut back to it. It's going to redo its installation. But once we come back, then we should be prompted with a continue without internet option. Cool. And then if you look over here in this corner here, where it was just grayed out, we now have an option that says I no longer have internet. And then it's going to allow you to continue with like a limited setup. It's the exact same thing. You just don't have the live services associated to the account. So then we can go through there, and then I'll see you on the other end. All right, so now that we've gone through there, let's go ahead and do a quick snapshot. And again, this is just more just to maintain good snapshots, so that way if we mess anything up, we can revert back to something, which at a certain point, we will need it for pre and post detonations. Just, it's good practice. So with that, we can now dig into our GitHub, and this is going to be for the Defender remover. So this is kind of what I was saying before, where it's going to act kind of wonky. We're going to do some things that Microsoft's not necessarily going to understand what's going on here. So we're going to go ahead and download this. It's going to remove things like your auto updates, your different pieces that are Microsoft's going to try to stop what we're doing. And again, it's not that it's being malicious on purpose or defending Microsoft's security platform. It's more or less just to save the end user. So we're gonna click that. Okay, it's gonna give us a prompt saying, hey, please don't delete our stuff. But we can actually bypass this by going into our ellipses here, going to keep, and then show more, and then keep anyway. So saying, hey, are you sure? You're absolutely sure. You have now accepted these risks, proceed at your own caution. So I'm gonna fast forward here a little bit. Now we're not presented with the executable here. So if we hit S to disable all security mitigations there, it's going to start wigging out. You're going to see like PowerShells launching. You're going to start seeing, command shells, all these admin shells are going to start popping. It's going to be more or less going through and removing all the security features on your machine. And it's a little spooky, but once everything is there, we can go ahead and reboot this. And once we do that, we'll do another snapshot prior to our tool set. So do that. And I'll see you in a minute. So now that we're back into our Windows instance, let's go ahead and create another snapshot. We'll call this our pre-toolkit snapshot. And then again, this is just more for to make sure everything is squared away if we mess up the installation for the PowerShell there. At this point, we're going to want to make sure that our internet is just up and running, because we're going to be pulling some stuff from the site. So let's go ahead and just put this back into NAT setting. That's fine. We're running admin shell there. And what we're going to basically do here is we're going to make sure that our execution policies are where they need to be. Okay, and it's restricted. So now we are ready to get our download. So I'm actually going to copy it over here from my report that I'm going off the instructions I'm going off of here. Okay, and what this is going to do is actually going to do a download from the Mandiant's Flare VM GitHub page. So that should actually download our PS1 to our desktop, which you should see over here. And then we're going to navigate to that really quick. Okay, there it is. And then with that, we are going to install this right here. And so it's going to say, prompt us a few things. It's going to say, are you sure you want to proceed with this? It's running as admin, everything is. Yep. So we're going to rock and roll with that. So cool. Yep. So Windows Defender service has been disabled. It's going to go through and just remove all the scary, spooky stuff. Like, hey, make sure all this stuff is there. Have we done our snapshot? Of course we have. Absolutely. And then we're going to enter our password from the actual user screen. So it's going to do some reboots and go through and do its reboots while it's doing the installation process. It's going to go through and start doing box starter and chocolatey install. So this takes forever. This takes probably like an hour and a half, 2 hours to do. But again, as I had mentioned before, I'm actually using the Flare VM's GitHub installation. This is something that's very transparent. What I really like about it is it shows you all the packages, the installs, all the different things, the contributors in there. I mean, it's a really cool, it's by far my favorite distribution for this analysis kind of work. But it's everything you need to know in here, from what's inside the installer itself to, what kind of ways you can set this up. I used the way of removing the tools via another person's GitHub, but you can use a GPO. There's just different GUIs that we're going to see as we go further down the thing here, but there's just a lot to take in, and the link will be in the description below. Just, this is very comprehensive. It just takes a long time. And then lastly here, verify everything's good. Go ahead and hit OK. You know everything is installed correctly and everything's up and running when you get that infamous Flare VM background. I love it. I love it so much. And after installing for like 2.5 hours, like, you come to love it too. But you get a log, like a text log that says, hey, here's the things that installed, didn't install. And then you can also dig into the tools folder here. Now, this is actually the distro that I use for a lot of like the hack the box Sherlocks or capture the flags, because while the Linux does have a lot of like created tools, you know, like user command, you know, created, community created stuff, there's some really good industry recognized tool sets here, and there's more to be had if you were to download them, like the Eric Zimmerman tools or what have you. But there's just so much stuff in here, and they're nice and organized, very similar to like the Kali setup. But it's Windows, and I mean, I'm a primary Windows user, and I really do enjoy this setup. So I'm so grateful for this, and this is one I personally use myself, but your miles may vary. Now, if you haven't watched the last one, you're gonna wanna click on this video right here, where we do a step-by-step walkthrough on a real-world incident. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a good one.